You've been deceived. You were told that masturbation was natural, that pornography was harmless, that ejaculating was just a physiological need, like drinking water or sleeping. But what if I told you that all of this is part of a silent plan to keep you weak, distracted, and far from your true power? Because a man who holds back his energy for 1,000 days is no longer the same. He doesn't live in the same world. He sees what others don't. He becomes a rare being. Semen retention isn't just about stopping ejaculation, it's about regaining everything you've lost. Focus, clarity, vitality, magnetism, emotional mastery. And most men will never know what that feels like. They'll spend their entire lives like modern-day zombies, jumping from pleasure to pleasure, while time, energy, and purpose slip away. But you're not here by chance. If this content reached you, it's because something inside you wants to awaken. Subscribe to the channel now, not to help me, but so I can continue bringing you valuable content, straight to the point, without fluff, based on real experience. Because what you'll discover here isn't in books, and almost no one talks about it. These are 21 observations that can only be made by someone who has lived through 1,000 days of semen retention. Each one will show you what truly changes, inside and out, when you decide to become an unusual man. And the more you listen, the more you'll realize that what you thought was the top was just the beginning. Because there's a version of you that's still asleep. And this video is the awakening. 1. What changes after 1,000 days, beyond the physical? Many people think semen retention is just about stopping ejaculation, but the truth is, after 1,000 days, you start to see the world from a different perspective. Your body changes, yes, more energy, more vigor, more testosterone. But what's really scary, in a good way, is what happens inside. You can no longer pretend you're the same. Your gaze changes, your posture changes, and people sense it before you even say a word. Semen retention affects your presence, as if you carry a different vibration. You know that look you get when you've seen things no one else has? That's exactly it. You no longer need motivational speeches or catchphrases. Silence becomes stronger than any argument. A man who has spent 1,000 days in semen retention is no longer guided by instincts. He's learned to walk by his own light. And that changes everything. It's like you've become a human radar. You sense when something or someone is draining your energy and simply walk away, without drama. Practical examples. Those triggers that used to trip you up, like pornography, social anxiety, or fear of rejection, turn to dust. You pass a beautiful woman on the street, and instead of feeling small, you simply wish she could find her own light. This isn't self-help, it's a level of awareness that only comes with daily practice. Books like The Way of the Superior Man, by David Deida, become mirrors of what you are already experiencing. And the most curious thing is, you start to remember who you were before you became addicted to stimulation. A pure, disciplined version, connected to something greater. Only now you have the maturity and structure to sustain it. Semen retention gives you back control of your own narrative. And when that happens, you no longer depend on anyone's validation. Your value is no longer in your performance, but in your essence. And it's precisely in this essence that something mysterious begins to awaken. It's no longer just a matter of self-knowledge. It seems that, with each day, your gaze becomes more precise, as if you were able to penetrate masks and find truths hidden in people's eyes. 2. The look that pierces souls. Over time, semen retention sharpens your gaze like a silent blade. You walk into a room and know exactly who is at peace and who is at war with themselves. It's as if people's eyes become naked windows, and you effortlessly see what they hide even from themselves. This gaze isn't mystical or magical. It's the result of energy that's no longer wasted. It returns and organizes itself within you, expanding your perception. There's no way to fake this kind of presence. People react to you differently, even without knowing why. Some feel welcomed. Others feel uncomfortable, because your silent energy reveals the lies they've told themselves. It's the side effect of being whole. You become a walking mirror. And those who don't want to see themselves avoid your presence. It's not judgment, it's vibration. It's frequency. It's semen retention in its most subtle form. Have you ever noticed how certain monks, shamans, or spiritual leaders don't even need to speak? They just look at you, and you feel something reorganize within you. It's this kind of impact that begins to emerge. And it's not because you've studied 1,000 books, it's because your energy is clear. Your essence speaks before your mouth. And believe me, this is extremely rare in today's world, where everyone chases likes while ignoring their own reflection. In simple, everyday situations, like a supermarket checkout, a work meeting, a conversation on the subway, you notice emotions floating in the air. And, effortlessly, you navigate them naturally. Your gaze trained on semen retention becomes like a beacon, guiding interactions, protecting your field, and avoiding emotional traps. It's a wisdom that comes not from your head, but from the energetic field you've cultivated in silence. And it is precisely in this silence that something even more powerful begins to emerge, an automatic respect that you don't ask for, but people feel, even without understanding exactly why. 3. How your energy creates automatic respect. After so much time with semen retention, you no longer need to raise your voice or assert yourself to be respected. Your energy already does this work before you even open your mouth. It's as if the environment recognizes you. Attention, this man is no longer sleeping. The respect you begin to receive comes not from fear, but from recognition. People sense that you carry something solid, centered, unshaken by anything. This is rare, and that's why it makes an impact. In a world where many crave attention, you become the guy who doesn't need it. And that's precisely what attracts the attention and care of others. It's as if your mere presence says, "I know who I am. I don't need to prove anything." And those who live with insecurity recognize, even unintentionally, that there's something different about you. This manifests itself even in small gestures, the space they give you, the way they listen to you, or the way they avoid interrupting you. Semen retention builds a kind of silent authority. You no longer need to beat your chest, show your resume, or justify yourself. And this even applies to relationships. When a man is in this state, he doesn't need to ask if he's being respected. He feels it. And if he isn't, he simply walks away, not out of anger, but out of integrity. He no longer trades his energy with just anyone, and this redefines his connections. Want an example? You know when someone enters a conversation and the mood changes? Not because they're the best looking or funniest, but because they radiate something that can't be bought. That's what semen retention builds. A magnetic field that communicates, "I'm not here out of need. I'm here by choice." And this vibration creates automatic respect, even among the most skeptical. And it is precisely because you are no longer motivated by the need to be accepted that you begin to experience a total absence of neediness, and that completely changes the game. Before continuing, if you're just starting out with semen retention and want to learn how to practice it the right way, safely, and with results, I've prepared an essential ebook for beginners. It's a direct, simple, and transformative step-by-step guide. The link is in the first pinned comment. 4. The total absence of need. One of the most underrated effects of semen retention is the complete disappearance of that restlessness disguised as desire. You know that anxiety for attention, that emptiness that made you check Instagram every 5 minutes or text someone just to feel like they exist? It disappears. And the curious thing, you don't miss it. The absence of neediness is like breathing fresh air after a lifetime indoors. You simply realize you don't need anything else to be at peace. And this doesn't mean you isolate yourself or become a hermit. Quite the opposite. You become even more sociable, more relaxed, more present. But now you don't expect anything from others. If someone responds to you, great. If they don't, that's also great. Because your completeness is no longer in the other person. It's in you. Semen retention aligns your emotions with your essence. And when that happens, neediness no longer finds room to lodge. In relationships, then, the change is brutal. You no longer engage in emotional games, subtle blackmail, or desperately seek validation. You don't sell yourself short. You don't get attached easily. And, most importantly, you're not afraid of losing. Because you've discovered something better than being loved, being at peace with your own company. This transforms the quality of everything you experience, from a conversation to a romantic relationship. Want to see this in practice? Try spending a week without looking for anything to fill your boredom. No pornography, no social media, no forced flirting. Just you, your thoughts, and your purpose. If this scares you, it's a sign that neediness is still at the wheel. But if it excites you, congratulations, You're beginning to walk the path to true freedom. Semen retention prepares you for this level of solitude, where your own company becomes your own temple. And it is within this inner temple that a rare power arises, the power to contemplate in silence, and to find, in the silence, more answers than the noise of the world ever offered. 5. The power of contemplating in silence. When semen retention becomes part of your lifestyle, silence stops being a nuisance and becomes a master. You discover a pleasure almost no one else knows, that of simply being. Without needing to say anything. Without needing to understand everything. Just being. And in this state, answers begin to come. Not from your noisy mind, but from a wisdom that only reveals itself to those who have learned to listen to the invisible. You know that urge to fill every second with stimulation, music, videos, social media, idle chatter? It disappears. And in its place arises a kind of spontaneous contemplation. You look up at the sky and understand something about yourself. You watch a child play and perceive a profound lesson. You watch the sunset without taking your phone out of your pocket, because the now becomes enough. And that is a power, perhaps the greatest of all. This silence is so powerful that it begins to resolve things within you without the need for words. It's as if, instead of you asking God for answers, He simply decided to show you. And He shows them in simple things, in the wind, in a gesture, in a thought that emerges from nowhere and clarifies what was previously confusing. This kind of listening only opens with refined energy, and semen retention is the energetic basis for this to happen. A good exercise. Go to a natural spot and spend an hour in silence, simply observing. No cell phone, no book, no music. Just you, your senses, and the landscape. At first, it may seem uncomfortable. But over time, something realigns. The mind slows. The heart opens. And what seemed ordinary begins to reveal itself as extraordinary. This is the power of contemplation, transforming the banal into the sacred. And as this serenity sets in, a new emotional cycle begins. The ups and downs that once dominated your emotional routine simply disappear. 6. The end of emotional ups and downs. When you delve deeper into semen retention, you realize something surprising. Your emotional life stops feeling like a roller coaster. That constant ups and downs, from euphoria to discouragement, from motivation to doubt, from excitement to guilt, begin to disappear. And this doesn't mean you become a robot without feelings. Quite the opposite. You feel everything more clearly, but without drowning in any emotion. It's as if you gain an internal emotional rudder that keeps you centered, even in the midst of storms. This balance doesn't come from magic formulas, but from the simple fact that your energy has stopped escaping through every possible hole. By conserving semen, you begin to consolidate something more important, your inner stability. And with it comes emotional maturity. You no longer react impulsively. You no longer explode over trivial matters. You no longer give in to other people's drama. You observe, understand, breathe, and then choose how to act. This completely changes your way of life. You stop being dragged along by your own moods and start walking with confidence. Motivation no longer depends on the weather, others, or external events. It comes from within. And this is liberating. When semen retention is practiced consistently, you wake up in the same state you fell asleep in, serene, focused, whole. And this consistency is what many mistake for coldness, but in reality, it's emotional strength. Want to try this? The next time something gets under your skin, a criticism, a delay, a frustration, instead of reacting, close your eyes and observe what's happening inside you. Without judging. Just observe. Within a few minutes, you'll notice the turmoil dissipate on its own. This is the training of a stable mind. And when this becomes a habit, something curious begins to happen. You begin to emit a magnetism that confuses even those who try to provoke you. And this magnetism, it defies logic. Because it's not about beauty, status, or fame. It's an inner glow that begins to emerge without you even trying, and that transforms the way the world reacts to you. 7. The magnetism that defies logic. Have you ever noticed how some people walk into a room and, without saying anything, everyone turns to look? It's not because of their clothes, their haircut, or even the car they're driving. It's something invisible, but undeniable. This is the kind of magnetism that arises when a man practices semen retention for long enough. It's as if the body becomes a natural magnet, not to seduce, but to attract sincere glances, silent respect, and even involuntary admiration. This magnetism can't be forced. In fact, the more you try to appear magnetic, the less you are. The key is to accumulate and transmute sexual energy. When this energy is no longer wasted on excess and distractions, it rises. Literally. It refines and begins to shine through your eyes, your skin, your speech. People feel attracted, even without understanding why. They simply sense that there's something about you different. Want an example of this in practice? A man with semen retention enters a room and doesn't try to attract attention. But as he sits in silence, people begin to adjust their behavior. Their posture changes, their tone of voice lowers, even their gazes soften. Not because he imposed anything, but because his presence speaks louder than any words. This is the magnetism that comes from energetic coherence, from the peace he carries within. And this quiet glow also manifests itself in casual encounters. Women who once ignored your presence now feel curious. Men who used to compete now respect you without understanding why. And the strangest thing, you don't care about it anymore. Because real magnetism doesn't seek validation. It just exists. It flows. And the less you care about recognition, the stronger it becomes. It is in this state of coherence and mastery that something even rarer begins to emerge: absolute control over the impulses of one's own mind, something most will never experience. 8. Absolute mastery of one's own mind. Most people live with their minds dragging them around like a dog off a leash. Random thoughts, impulsive desires, constant distractions, everything becomes a command. But when semen retention is practiced seriously, the tables are turned. You stop being held hostage by your mind and become its master. It's as if a higher part of you finally takes the wheel, and your thoughts, which were once unruly, now follow your lead. This doesn't mean thoughts disappear. They keep coming. The difference is that you no longer identify with all of them. You observe, choose, and direct them. The mind stops being a noise factory and becomes a creative tool. Ideas become more clearly organized. Decisions become quicker. And anxiety, which was once a constant background noise, begins to fade. Because you've learned to control it. A practical example. Let's say that before, when you saw a provocative image, your mind raced, "Go ahead, just today, you deserve it." Within seconds, you were already relapsing. Now, you hear that voice, smile, and say, "Not today, friend. I know you already." And get back to doing what matters. This is the power of mental mastery. And it applies to everything: nutrition, productivity, focus, spirituality. You choose where to put your energy, not the other way around. This mastery isn't achieved overnight, but semen retention accelerates the process. Because every time you say no to the impulse, you say yes to your purpose. And over time, this repetition becomes a pattern. The mind understands who's in charge. And by understanding this, you realize that chaos was never outside. It was only inside without control. Now, with energetic discipline, you become the director of your own storyline. And in this storyline, even dreams stop being random. They become organized. They gain direction. They transform into guided visions, as if your own soul begins sending you clear messages while you sleep. 9. How dreams become guided visions. As semen retention progresses, even what happens during sleep changes. Those confusing, fragmented dreams filled with mental clutter begin to disappear. In their place emerge vivid experiences, with clear symbols, vivid messages, and sensations so real that you wake up remembering every detail. It's as if, during sleep, your subconscious becomes a channel of direct communication with something higher. You dream less about distractions, and more about directions. And it's not just mysticism. It's neurophysiology too. By conserving vital energy, the body and brain enter a different rhythm. The mind becomes clearer. The pineal gland, previously clogged with stimuli, begins to function better. And this expands your capacity for perception, even while asleep. Many report having insights into important decisions, emotional reconciliations, even mild premonitions in their dreams. It's like receiving spiritual downloads overnight. Want to put this into practice? Before bed, write a sincere question in a notebook. Something you truly want to understand. Then, turn off all stimuli, take a deep breath, and say internally, I am ready to receive. Over the days, observe. Your dreams will begin to respond. Perhaps not with words, but with images, sensations, and symbolic scenes that, over time, will make complete sense. This phenomenon intensifies because semen retention heightens spiritual sensitivity. Your body is no longer constantly struggling to replenish energy. It enters a state of energetic abundance. And in this abundance, your soul begins to guide you even while you rest. Sleep becomes healing. Dreams become guidance. The night ceases to be a blackout and becomes a continuation of your conscious journey. And it is precisely in this deep connection between body, spirit, and mind that a new understanding emerges. The body, previously seen as an obstacle, now reveals itself as a spiritual ally of incalculable value. 10. The body becomes your spiritual ally. For a long time, we were taught to see the body as an enemy, full of desires, limitations, and weaknesses. But on the journey of semen retention, this narrative falls apart. You begin to realize that the body isn't the problem. It's the channel. When treated with respect and discipline, it becomes a true spiritual ally. It alerts you when something is wrong. It vibrates when you're on the right path. And, most of all, it responds to the command of your conscience. The sexual energy that once dominated you now flows freely, bringing vitality, focus, and intuition. You wake up feeling refreshed, your heart lighter, and your senses more heightened. Your body, once a hostage to impulses, becomes an instrument of expansion. It's like going from a broken-down car to a powerful, silent vehicle. The difference isn't in appearance, but in internal performance. And this performance only comes with respect and accumulated energy. Want to see this in practice? Do a daily 15-minute routine of deep breathing, mindful movement, like yoga or stretching, and body gratitude. Soon, you'll notice how your body begins to talk to you. It gives you signals about when to eat, when to stop, when to rest, and when to act. Semen retention refines this connection. You stop forcing it and start listening. And then everything flows more smoothly. And the more you treat your body as a temple, the more it rewards you with strength, clarity, and peace. This is one of the greatest spiritual keys. Matter doesn't need to be denied, it needs to be transcended through mastery. When this happens, even your appearance changes. People notice a different glow, a more vibrant skin tone, a firmer gaze. And it has nothing to do with vanity, but with energetic alignment. And this subtle glow doesn't go unnoticed, especially by them. Women sense, even if they can't explain it, that there's something about you that's rare and deeply attractive. Everything I'm explaining to you here, I break down more calmly in my ebook The Power of Semen Retention. It was created for those who are starting from scratch and want to know how to apply semen retention to their daily lives in a healthy way, without any crazy ideas or exaggerations. It's a practical guide, straight to the point. 11. Women feel, even without understanding. No matter how much the world changes, women's perception remains attuned to something beyond logic. And when a man enters an advanced state of semen retention, it becomes evident. He doesn't need to say anything, nor show off. Women simply feel it. It's not the perfume, it's not the haircut, it's not the car. It's the countryside. A frequency that communicates, this man is present. And presence, these days, has become a luxury item. They may not be able to explain what they're feeling, but their bodies respond. It's as if something ancient awakens within them, a sense of security, mystery, and respect all at once. Some approach, wanting to understand. Others back away, not ready for this energy. But they all sense it. And it has nothing to do with seduction games. It's a silent, almost instinctive recognition. In practice, you begin to notice that you don't need to chase. Semen retention transforms your energy into an invitation. An invitation to something different, something deeper. This doesn't mean you'll attract crowds, but rather that you'll attract people more aligned with who you truly are. You're no longer available for any shallow connection. And this natural filter begins to act for you, without you having to think. Want an example? A woman can be surrounded by impeccably groomed men, But if a man in full semen retention enters the room with poise, silence, and truth, she'll notice. Not because he's imposed himself, but because he's whole. And this kind of energetic integrity is magnetic. It doesn't seduce, it inspires. It doesn't push, it pulls. And it doesn't deceive, it reveals. And as you breathe in like this, you realize that desire transforms. It no longer dominates you, it becomes fuel. Fuel to create, to build, to transmute. And the mind begins to free itself from the old sexual programming that trapped you in the same old cycles. Topic 12. The mind frees itself from sexual programming. The truth is harsh but liberating. For years, perhaps decades, your mind has been programmed to revolve around sex. Not sacred, conscious sex, but sex as an escape valve, as an addiction disguised as freedom. Semen retention tears up this script. Little by little, you realize that your mind no longer needs to chase stimulation, images, or fantasies. It calms down. And, for the first time, you begin to think for yourself. The crazy thing is, you had no idea how enslaved you were by this programming. That almost automatic need to look, desire, imagine, consume. It was so present it seemed natural. But it was just conditioning. Conditioning that made you waste hours, energy, and purpose. When you cut this cycle at the root, your mind gains space. Space to create, to plan, to imagine big things, not just quick pleasures. Want a practical tool to help with this process? Replace your triggers. Whenever a mental image or an old impulse comes to mind, take a deep breath and redirect it. Grab a notebook and write down what you're feeling, without censoring it. Then, visualize your larger goal, a project, a purpose, a lifestyle. This simple practice, repeated consistently, retrains your mind. And believe me, it learns quickly when firmly led. You begin to see the traps of media, music, and social media. Everything was designed to keep you distracted, excited, and exhausted. But now, you're awake. And those who wake up don't go back to sleep. A clear mind becomes a powerful ally. And best of all, it starts working for you, not against you. The noise diminishes. Clarity increases. And, amid this fertile silence, you realize that the past no longer defines you. Because from now on, you're no longer a product of your failures. You're the product of the choices you've made now, and that changes the entire structure of your story. 13. The past stops defining your present. For a long time, most men carry the weight of what they did or didn't do. Guilt for being weak. Shame for relapses. Regret for wasting so much time on empty things. But with the deep practice of semen retention, something changes. You begin to understand that your past is not a sentence. It is just a chapter, and the current chapter is written with a different pen, with different ink, with a different consciousness. The energy that once kept you stuck in repetition now transforms into the power of reinvention. You no longer see yourself as the guy who failed. You see yourself as the one who decided to change. And this decision, when sustained day after day, gives new meaning to your entire journey. What was once a source of pain now becomes the raw material for wisdom. Falls become lessons. Losses, training. Mistakes, a bridge. Semen retention is the building block that rebuilds your identity. A simple example. Before, remembering a relapse made you feel defeated. Now, you see it as a reminder of who you no longer want to be. There's no more guilt, there's clarity. And this clarity frees you. You stop punishing yourself and start guiding yourself. The question shifts from, why did I do that? To, who do I choose to be now? This shift is everything. Because when the past loses control, the present becomes a fertile field of possibilities. This new state gives you courage. The courage to forgive those who need to be forgiven. To end toxic cycles. To stop repeating the same patterns in relationships, habits, and decisions. Semen retention reveals a powerful truth. No one can trap you in a story you've chosen to escape. And this choice manifests itself in daily, silent, and firm actions. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. Your presence already tells the new story. And as this new story begins to take shape, something even deeper takes over. Something that comes not from logic, but from intuition, and it begins to guide your every step with almost supernatural precision. 14. Intuition takes over. There's an intelligence within you that's always known the way, but it's been drowned out by the noise of the world. The good news: when you practice semen retention long enough, that noise subsides, and intuition, once a whisper, begins to speak loud and clear. It warns you when a room is tense. It lets you know that there's something fishy about that tempting proposition. It guides you on who to approach and who to stay away from. And the best part, it's almost never wrong. Unlike the rational mind, which needs 1,000 proofs and justifications, intuition is direct. It doesn't shout, but insists. It appears as a nuisance, a shiver, a feeling in your chest. And when you learn to listen to it, life begins to flow. Decisions become easier. Doubts dissolve. And detours, which previously lost you months, are now avoided with a simple choice based on feeling. Semen retention clears the channel through which this wisdom enters. Want to develop this in a practical way? Instead of seeking answers outside yourself, start asking yourself simple questions. Silently. Without anxiety. Something like, is this good for me? Or, is this aligned with my purpose? Then, feel. Breathe. Observe your body. The tightness or lightness are already answers. This practice is like tuning an instrument. The more you practice, the clearer the sound. And over time, you realize you already know, you just need to trust. This confidence changes everything. Because by trusting your intuition, you free yourself from the need for approval. You begin to say no without guilt, and yes without fear. Your internal compass strengthens. And you begin to walk paths that don't make sense to others, but make perfect sense to your soul. And that's when the magic happens. Coincidences increase. Opportunities arise. And life seems to respond to you synchronistically. And the more you live in this intuitive flow, the more you realize that time, as most people understand it, begins to slow down. And the now expands with an intensity you never imagined possible before. 15. Time slows down, presence expands. Something curious happens when you get deep into semen retention. Time changes. Not on the clock, but in your internal perception. The days no longer seem short and rushed. The hours yield more. Conversations slow down. And everything starts to happen at your pace, not society's. It's as if you've stepped off the world's conveyor belt and returned to the natural rhythm of existence. The now finally begins to have flavor. This sense of presence doesn't come from fancy techniques, but from accumulated energy. When the body is whole and the mind is silent, time doesn't need to rush. You do more with less haste. You make decisions without anxiety. You live without rushing yourself. Semen retention creates a field of consciousness so dense that you feel time expanding around you. Simple moments, like walking or drinking tea, become almost meditative experiences. In practice, this means less stress, less reactivity, less sense of urgency. You realize the world may be rushing along, but you don't have to rush along. You're no longer late for anything. Because what's yours isn't lost, it just needs you to be present to receive it. And this presence, oddly enough, begins to attract everything that previously seemed distant. The right people, the right opportunities, answers that previously eluded you. Want to cultivate this? Eliminate at least one rush from your day. Do something slowly, thoroughly. Savor a piece of fruit as if for the first time. Look at the sky for 5 minutes, doing nothing. Walk without your cell phone. This kind of practice grounds your awareness in the present. And over time, this state ceases to be exercise and becomes your natural way of being. You begin to feel that living isn't about rushing, it's about aligning with the soul's timing. And when this soul is nourished, a new desire is born. No longer sexual, impulsive, or unconscious, but a refined, powerful, creative desire. And it becomes the fuel for your life's greatest creations. 16. Desire becomes creative fuel. When you stop wasting energy on immediate pleasure, something extraordinary happens. Desire, which was previously compulsive, becomes creative. It's like redirecting a flooding river to irrigate a plantation. Semen retention doesn't eliminate desire, it purifies it. And this desire, cleansed and channeled, becomes a force for creation. You wake up with a desire to build, to learn, to grow. It's the same inner fire, but now with purpose. Instead of seeking the next sexual stimulus, you start to feel excited about life. Excited to write a book, to start a business, to do something that will last. Your body continues to vibrate, but the direction of the energy has changed. It rises. It goes to the heart. It goes to the brain. And this energy fuels brilliant ideas, powerful intuitions, and a productivity that even you find surprising. It's the creative state in its purest form. No guilt, no rush, no distraction. Want to see this in practice? Take an old project you've always wanted to do but never had the discipline to. During your semen retention period, dedicate some of that pent-up energy to that project. Sit down to write, create, and plan. You'll be amazed at the clarity, focus, and flow that emerge. It's as if a new intelligence has been unlocked, one that was always there but was too occupied with low stimuli. And it's not just about productivity. It's about expression. You start to put your essence into what you do, whether it's cooking, speaking, playing an instrument, training, or studying. Everything gains more color, more life. Because now you're no longer acting out of obligation or escape, you're overflowing. It's desire that stopped being a hole and become a bridge. A bridge to what you were born to achieve. And when you begin to act with this inner strength, something incredible happens. Clarity sets in. You see clearly. And it's as if you can, for the first time, see behind the scenes of the matrix, from the inside, and with your eyes wide open. 17. The clarity to see the matrix from within. Over time, semen retention not only changes your energy, your body, and your mind, it changes your worldview. Literally. You begin to see patterns that previously went unnoticed. People repeating the same behaviors without knowing why. News manipulates emotions. Products selling promises that feed emptiness. The matrix ceases to be a theory and becomes an experience. You see it operating all around you, all the time. This clarity is uncomfortable at first. You realize that many of your desires were planted. That your idea of success came from outside. That your downfalls were fueled by a system that thrives on your distraction. But instead of rebelling, you mature. Because now you see. And those who see have a choice. Semen retention takes you out of the illusion of need and places you in the reality of consciousness. You no longer want everything. You want what's yours, and that's it. Want to test this insight? Spend an entire day simply observing. The conversations, the advertisements, the automatic behaviors on social media. Realize how much energy is wasted daily, and how you, before, were part of it without even noticing. This awareness hurts, but it liberates. Because the more you see, the easier it is to choose differently. The harder it is to fall into the traps. And the clearer the path becomes for those who truly want to live awakened. And this lucidity brings peace. Because you stop fighting the system, and start playing another game. An internal, silent game, where your greatest weapon is discipline. Where your greatest wealth is your vital energy. Where your greatest power is saying no to what weakens you and yes to what strengthens you. And in this state, even temptations lose their appeal. Relapses, once disguised as pleasure, can no longer deceive you. Because now you know the taste of truth. And once you taste it, you simply cannot go back to the previous state. 18. Relapses no longer try to deceive you. There comes a point in the semen retention journey where relapses change form. They no longer appear as pleasure. They appear as weakness, as self-abandonment, as sabotage. And most interestingly, you feel it even before you fall. Your body warns you. Your soul alerts you. Your mind tries to negotiate, but you already know how this story ends. The illusion loses its luster. And what was once temptation is now just a reminder of what you no longer want to be. This doesn't mean you become unattainable. But you become aware. You see the triggers, the patterns, the excuses. And by seeing all this clearly, the power of relapse weakens. It no longer dominates you. It tries, but you laugh. Because you know the price. You know the emptiness afterward. You know the energy drop. And you know that no instant pleasure is worth the pain of disconnecting from yourself. Semen retention installs a kind of anti-fraud system in your consciousness. A good exercise is to keep a trigger journal. Write down, honestly, what usually drives you to the brink of relapse: boredom, anxiety, loneliness, wounded pride. Then, write down what you feel right after giving in. This simple comparison, made regularly, clearly shows you that the promised pleasure is always less than the price charged. And this truth, internalized, becomes a shield. And the most beautiful thing, you begin to have compassion for those still trapped in this cycle. Not to judge, but to understand. You've been there. And now, with this clarity, you can help, not with words, but with presence. Because your determination inspires. Your energy shows that it's possible. And the world needs to see more men free from this pattern. Men who live not under the dominion of weak will, but under the power of conscious choice. And it is precisely at this point that something sacred begins to emerge, the realization that you are no longer alone. You are a channel for something divine that acts through you, and changes everything around you. 19. You recognize yourself as a divine channel. There comes a moment on your journey when you stop seeking God outside, and begin to feel Him within. Not as dogma, nor as an image, but as a living force, pulsing within you, guiding your steps, expressing itself through your eyes. This moment arrives subtly. You are there, firm in semen retention, with your energy intact, your mind clear, and your heart at peace, and then something happens. A sense of unity, of purpose, of divine presence. You realize you no longer need to ask for strength, because you are the strength. That you don't need to beg for signs, because life is already speaking to you all the time. And that your body, once treated as an enemy, is now a temple. You recognize yourself as a channel for something greater. And this changes your posture. It changes your tone of voice. It even changes the way you breathe. Because you're no longer playing a character, you're embodying a mission. Want to feel this more deeply? Try being silent for a few minutes at dawn, with your eyes closed, in a state of gratitude. Just breathe and say internally, I am here. Use me. You don't need to ask for anything else. Just make yourself available. Over time, you will feel an energy that is both light and steady, as if something is beginning to work through you. This is the essence of the channel, not being the focus, but being the flow. And when you live this way, even small acts gain spiritual value. A piece of advice, a kind gesture, a right word at the right time. Everything becomes a bridge between the invisible and the visible. You become an instrument, and those who encounter you feel it. They feel that there's something different about you. Something that can't be bought, taught, or faked. It can only be cultivated. And this cultivation comes from the daily choice to keep your energy pure, your mind aligned, and your heart willing. And it is in this inner disposition that even solitude changes meaning. What once seemed like absence now reveals itself as an intense presence, and transforms into a true temple of power. 20. Loneliness becomes a temple of power. Most people fear solitude. They run from it. They fill it with noise, distraction, and empty company. But when a man delves deeply into semen retention, something changes. He begins to seek silence. To delight in his own presence. Solitude, once seen as punishment, becomes a retreat. A sacred space where he finds himself, listens to himself, and refines himself. It's not isolation. It's conscious solitude. And this state becomes one of the greatest spiritual assets anyone can have. It's in this inner temple that you reorganize your mind, heal old wounds, and connect with your highest self. There are no masks. There's no performance. There's no distraction. Just you, your truth, and your raw energy. And the most interesting thing, the more time you spend with yourself, the more you enjoy being with yourself. Solitude becomes a source, and there's no shortage. You emerge from it replenished, centered, and strengthened. Want to cultivate this? Set aside an hour a week just for yourself. No cell phone, no music, no conversation. It could be walking, writing, meditating, or just observing the world in silence. At first, it feels strange. The addiction to noise tries to pull you back. But over time, this space becomes indispensable. You begin to feel that there, in your silence, lies the key to everything. Intuition, healing, vision, strength, purpose. And the most curious thing, people notice. They realize you're not available at any price. That you have a center. That you no longer trade your peace for crumbs of attention. And this scares some, but attracts the right ones. Because when you transform your solitude into a temple, you become unshakable. The external doesn't distract you. Chaos doesn't affect you. You are anchored. And this state, sustained for long periods, reveals a profound truth. That semen retention is no longer a practice, nor a challenge. It has become part of who you are. A natural state of your being that manifests itself in everything you touch. Want to start your journey with awareness and confidence? Then click on the first pinned comment now, get the ebook, and take the first step toward your transformation. It's all there, clear, objective, and designed for those who truly want to evolve. 21. Retention becomes the natural state of being. At first, semen retention feels like a struggle. A battle against impulses, habits, old vices. But after so many days, so many internal confrontations, it stops being an effort and becomes essence. You no longer need reminders, challenges, or day counters. You simply live in this state. It has become natural, like breathing. The idea of returning to old patterns begins to seem as absurd as consciously drinking poison. You no longer miss what was hurting you. The pleasure of the past loses its power in the face of the peace of the present. Retention is no longer a tool. It's an extension of your consciousness. Something that guides your decisions, shapes your relationships, structures your days. It's not a prison. It's freedom. Because now you know how to choose. You understand the power of having your energy intact, and you have no intention of giving it up for any fleeting distraction. Real-life example. Men in this state often forget to count the days. They no longer live in countdown mode. They live in expansion. On a mission. In focus. Temptations still exist, but they no longer find loopholes. The system has been reconfigured. The new way of living has taken hold. And this is reflected in everything. In a firmer voice, a calmer gaze, wiser decisions, and paths more aligned with the soul. This state is powerful because it's light. There's no more rigidity, guilt, or tension. There's firmness, yes, but with gentleness. You act without pressure. You feel without fear. You create without limits. Semen retention, at this stage, is like the roots of a tree, invisible to the eye, but supporting everything from within. And those who observe from the outside feel the strength, even without knowing where it comes from. And perhaps this is the turning point, when what began as a challenge becomes an identity. And identity, a legacy. Because from this point on, every choice you make begins to shape not only your life, but the world around you. After all this, the question remains, what will you do with this knowledge? Will you close this video and return to the same habits that weaken you, or will you use this awareness to change your life once and for all? Because now you know, it's not just about stopping ejaculation, it's about taking control of your own existence. Semen retention is just the beginning. True power lies in who you become along the way. Do you want more clarity, more presence, more magnetism? This doesn't come from outside. It comes from the energy you choose to protect. You can continue living like everyone else, or you can become the one who lives what almost no one has the courage to live. So, will you continue to be a spectator in your own life, or will you take the lead role? Leave a comment. Which of these 21 observations resonated with you the most? Which one made you realize it's time to take this journey seriously? Tell me, because I read everything. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell, because we're not talking to ordinary people here. We're talking to those who are ready to awaken. And if you've made it this far, it's because you already know there's no turning back now. The next step is yours.